Hello, this is Andrew with My Million Knot Bike, and this is a Cannondale Fat CAAD 1, which is a fat bike. I never really thought that I would buy a fat bike, but obviously I did. And it's really an artifact of having tried to ride a fat bike in the snow. So I've been riding in the snow for ages on a mountain bike and recently on a gravel bike with studded tires. And while you can ride a gravel bike with studded tires on pretty much anything around here, where around here is Illinois and Wisconsin, in the snow, I found recently that it's just not quite the same experience as it would be when you've got a giant contact patch. And so I went looking for a fat bike. Now, the world of bicycles is pretty broken right now. It's pretty hard to find any kind of bike, but it is especially hard to find a fat bike. And so this Cannondale bike wasn't my first choice or my second choice or even my third choice in fat bikes, but it did have one feature that none of those other bikes had, and that was that I could actually buy it a couple days and have it here, within a reasonable time frame. Found this from a shop called Filbert in Dover, New Hampshire, and I got a little bit of a discount, but after shipping and handling, it was probably about what I would have paid for it if I had bought it locally. But unfortunately, none of the shops around here, which is I called about 50 or 60 shops actually, all around the Chicagoland and southern Wisconsin area. Nobody had fat bikes. So yeah, this is it. I did have some reservations around buying a Cannondale because, as you might or might not know, Cannondale uses something they called AI offset on many of their bikes, which is that the rear wheel is dished a little differently than it is on everybody else's bikes. And while that's not particularly scary to me anymore, a friend of mine recently bought a set of Cannondale dished wheels from Far Sports, and they came here and they were dished improperly. We were able to get that sorted. Actually, Far Sports was great about it too. I've been meaning to make a video about that. I just haven't gotten around to it. But yeah, so I learned a lot about how that process works, what that is, what that means. So it's not as scary as it was, but still, you can't just swap the tires around or the wheels around across bikes. Yeah, I ended up with a Cannondale. This has a few neat features, but let's get it out of the box. And hopefully I'll be able to do that pretty easily here. I am going to have to go get a screwdriver because I like to save these, and I don't think I'm going to be able to get these. Well, I can get this out pretty easily. This is the seat post. Just in case I need to put this back together again, I'm going to go get a screwdriver so I can take those apart nicely. Okay, so that was not nearly as elegant as I'd hoped. Unfortunately, I discovered that the battery died in my camera after I had the whole bike built up and I was talking to the air. So I did miss the complete bike build. I did build it up the way that Cannondale spec'd it with, the seat and everything and the tires that came with it so that I could get an official weight. I believe it was 14.72 kilograms. The bike here weighs well over 15. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I'll put images of the differences. The main thing that adds weight here are these studded Derailleur 4 45 North tires. I was not able to set them up tubeless because while the Sunringle Woofit 80, I don't know if that's how you say it, wheels did come taped for tubeless. Tubeless valves were not included, and I didn't think to buy them because I have extra tubeless valves, but unfortunately, because of the width of the rim here, they didn't have enough threads on the stem to get tight, so I just had to order some tubeless valves. So I will save some overweight when I take the tubes out and just convert these to tubeless. Not that I think weight's a super important thing on a fat bike, because it really doesn't matter because you're going slow and you're going to get snow on the bike anyway. So I also changed the saddle, which saves a little bit of weight there, but that was more because I really like that saddle. That's my second favorite saddle. It's a Physique Arione R3. And I just had it laying around and figured I'd go with that versus the one that came with it. Starting at the back here, we have a Shimano SLX 11-speed rear derailleur. It is clutched. And generally you want to leave that on when you're riding and then turn it off whenever you need to take a wheel out, because it's pretty hard to get the wheel out otherwise. The cassette here in the back is an 1146 from Sunrace. I don't know that Shimano sells an 11-speed SLX cassette. I wasn't able to find one. And the shifting here is not super smooth. I don't know if that's because it's a Sunrace cassette or because of the large jumps that you have between the sprockets. That might be something I play around with a little bit later. This is only rated to 46 teeth, so I might just be stuck with that unless I want to try something maybe SRAM has, or maybe if I go up to XD or XDR, there's an 11-speed cassette that I can play with. In the front, the chainring is a 30-tooth Cannondale SI crank thing, because it's a Cannondale and they just do their own thing up there. They also do their own thing with the bottom bracket. This is a BB30 XL, and I imagine it's just like BB30, a press fit BB30, but with the width of a mountain bike. I actually wasn't able to find much information around that. I'm not entirely sure how it works. When I need to take this apart to service it, I will figure that out. The brakes here are Tektro. They use a setup very similar to Shimano with the mineral oil for hydraulic fluid, which I was glad to have. I don't have the tools for SRAM brakes. Not that that's a problem either way, I just don't have the tools, so it was nice not to have to buy those for when I need to work on the brakes. Coming around here, we can see that the through axle here is a very sensible 6mm hex key release. I prefer these to the kinds with levers. That's very sensible. Oddly enough, up front, they have this bizarre quick release through axle, very similar to exactly the same as the Linsky, where you have to get it in this groove here to make it tighten, and then it tightens further when you flip the lever, and I hate it. But unfortunately, because this is, I believe it's a 15mm axle, I haven't been able to find a replacement. I'm going to keep looking, so if anyone knows where I can replace this with a much more sensible axle setup, ideally driven by a hex key, that would be awesome. It sticks out so far from the bike that it's hard to get my bike rack into the right position to clamp. I have a Ceres super clamp, and I can't get the arm into the right position to really clamp down on the tire in the best position because this thing sticks out so far. So I would love to get something cleaner, something that works better, both from a through axle perspective and also something that fits a little bit flusher on the bike, so it would fit in my bike rack better. Cables externally routed, both in the front and then also to the rear. There is space in these clamps here for 2 additional runs, a big one for an hydraulic hose and a small one for something else. There is no option for a 2x setup here, so I imagine that something else is a dropper post, because there's a ferrule down up over here, and then an entryway in the back on the seat tube where you probably could run the cables necessary for a dropper. I don't think I'm going to run a dropper because I just don't think I'm going to use this bike in that way, but it's nice to know that you could do that. I got a chance to ride the bike yesterday out in Silver Lake, Wisconsin, some mountain bike trails that they groom for fat bikes in the wintertime. And it was awesome. I had a ton of fun. I was really glad to have a fat bike. I've been kind of using the gravel. I wouldn't have been able to ride the gravel bike there because it's only for fat bikes. But if you like riding in the snow, go get yourself a fat bike. There's really no substitute for contact patch and low PSI. So hopefully you found that to be useful. If you did, go ahead and like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions or comments, let me know and I will get to them as soon as I can. Cheers.